This is Annabelle Gabberti, the host and publisher of the podcast Lawfully Creative. It's been a while, sorry about that, but we are very busy at the law firm Crefovi, catching up with clients, getting on some new matters in our law firm, entertainment, new matters, exciting stuff coming in. So I am only able to release this fabulous podcast episode now. So on the 21st of August 2023, I had the extreme pleasure of meeting in person Marta di Nozzi, who is an assistant engineer at the very prestigious Abbey Road Studios, music studios. And we had a delightful time, and Marta is a very professional, determined and thorough person. She works very hard. You can really hear it from her answers to my various questions. And she takes her time to really master a craft and to really move upwards step by step at a rhythm. And I really appreciated this curiosity that she has for the field of music recording and music mastering and mixing, and at the same time the humility somehow that she also has in assessing her skills, her skill set, her abilities. I found her a very inspiring person, and I hope you will share this opinion with me after you've heard her talking during this interview. So have a great listen and give it up for Marta di Nozzi.
I've been at Abbey Road Studios. In September it's going to be 4 years of employment.
Awesome.
Before that, I studied 1 year at the Abbey Road Institute here in London, which is a school that has the name of the studios as well.
Is it close by?
So it used to be next door, in the building next to Abbey Road, but now they relocated to Angel Studios. Which is a much bigger facility, but they have much more
in Islington
space. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
There's a bus that you can take on the
yes.
over there. I think it's 143 or something, which brings you to Islington. Oh wow, okay.
Yeah.
So you did that for a year?
Yes. So the course is a year, and is sound engineering and music production. And after that, there was the possibility for me to stay at the school for a bit more, because some students get the opportunity to work in the school as technicians. So they take care of the facilities, they help the new students settling in and troubleshooting if they're in the studios, just help around. So I did that for around 7 months. And after that, there was an opening for a runner's position here at Abbey Road Studios, so I applied for the job.
What does that mean, runner's position?
So it's the entry level for the people that want to do sound engineering in a studio.
Okay, so like in a law firm, you would say I'm a trainee. You were no longer a trainee, I suppose. So like first year associate, you would say in a law firm. So
yeah.
You were like,
I think so.
Okay. A runner.
Studio runner. So they were used to call T-boys once, because they were the people that actually were taking care of bringing drinks and teas and food to the sessions, to the clients.
That's important.
Oh my God, very important. Right now, obviously, there's a bit more to do in terms of what concerns a runner in a studio as big as Abbey Road.
Sure.
So you don't just bring drinks anymore or food anymore to people, but you take care of the booking of the microphones, you help setting up, packing down. You're basically the first one to arrive in the morning and the last one to leave in the evenings, after you helped everyone in every session in the whole building. Yeah. So
definitely like a first year associate in a law firm.
Yes. The learning curve is pretty steep because in your first few months you kind of learn to do everything. You have to learn every room. You have to learn about everyone and all the members of the team and how things work. So it's pretty intense.
Speaking about that, actually, how many rooms are there in Abbey Road Studios?
If I'm right, it's a total of 7.
Wow. Okay.
So we have the 3 main studios. So Studio 1, 2, and 3. The most famous ones. Then we have a couple of mixing rooms for Atmos called Mixstage and Penthouse, and then we have some smaller studios called Front Room, the Gatehouse, and which are more for sort of band, smaller,
less money.
Less budget, let's say, as well, which is good because you can get a nice vocal recording or a guitar or some drums recorded here in a nice space. So yeah, there's quite a few rooms to cover.
7.
Yeah, around 7. Yes.
Lovely. And I remember this funny anecdote about the Rolling Stones who recorded one of their album outside the UK because the taxation rate was 70% at the time in the 70s and or even more than that, and they actually decided to relocate in the south of France in a very, very plush villa, I think on the peninsula of it will revert back to me, but between Villefranche-sur-Mer and Monaco. And so I think it was called Westcote or Huscote. And so these guys, the Rolling Stones, they were always recording their sessions in the middle of the night, like starting from midnight until 5 a.m. And so at some point, all the neighbors in the plush villas around them in this peninsula called, I think, Cap Ferrat, Saint-Jean-Cap-Ferrat, that's right, Saint-Jean-Cap-Ferrat, they actually called the police and decided to evict them. So they had to bugger off the Rolling Stones. And the reason why I'm mentioning this anecdote is because I was wondering if here at Abbey Road Studios you can accommodate the needs of rockers who are a bit, bizarre. I mean, for normal people who work, say, 9 to 7 or 9 to 8 p.m. And, if they want to start recording at 10 p.m. or midnight, is that something that can be accommodated here? And also being compliant with rules. I suppose this is a listed conservation area.
Yes.
So.
The building is...
Oh, as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
So... yes, it used to happen much more in the past, like at the time of the Rolling Stones or the Beatles, or right now our days are long, but they start in the morning and we finish in the evenings.
Okay.
But if there's some special need or requirement, yes, we can accommodate that. Right. We had some sessions, and we still have sometimes that they want to start later in the afternoon or evening. They go up until, well, not say the morning, but yeah.
So sometimes it happens, but less.
Sometimes it happens.
Than before.
Yeah, less than before. Yeah.
Do you think this is because they take less drugs, or?
Well, I would not know about that, but. It might also be, I don't know, I guess it's some sort of rule as well. The usual booking is from 10 a.m. till 8 p.m. and if you want to do more than that or different timings than that is something that needs to be discussed with the office. So having a management that actually takes care of all of this stuff with the clients, it kind of takes the pressure off of us in terms of how many hours we have to work even during the night. So it's up to the office. Yes.
Maybe it could be just a jet lag thing, if they come from Australia or from the US.
We have a lot of that. Like a lot of clients come from the US, and we start later in the day and we finish later at night to try and accommodate the fact that they're a bit jet lag. Or we do a lot of streaming of audio and picture if we do movies to people that couldn't come maybe to be here for the session. So some of the clients are still in the US.
Really?
So
what you are recording?
Yeah. So
streaming live with musicians who are in-house here.
Yes.
Wow, you must have an absolutely amazing Wi-Fi connection.
Yeah. Yes, more than Wi-Fi is wired, so our internet, it is in fact pretty fast. So we are able to stream audio and picture in sync with the orchestra or the musicians that are playing at the same time.
Yeah, so if it's with Los Angeles, by definition you would have to start working. Yeah.
So
afternoon.
Sometimes we start at 2 p.m. and they wake up at 5 a.m. to be able to get the streaming, and for us not to be too late in the afternoon or evening to get through the night. So we get a lot of that with clients that come from different places in the world.
And are you local to here, or do you have to commute? Because especially these hours are a bit, can change. Are you like? Or perhaps you can cab it when
I recently bought a motorbike.
Ooh, that's dangerous.
I know, but I'm Italian. I come from Rome, so I learned to drive there, and I got my first moped when I was 14. My first motorbike when I was 16. So I decided, since I live in North London and it would take me almost an hour to get here with tube, I was like, you know what?
So you take your motorbike?
Yes, and now in less than half an hour I'm here, so that's pretty cool.
That's awesome. That's great. Well done. So 4 years. So you said, and sorry, I might have misunderstood, but you said 4 years working here. Was that covering your time when you were at the Abbey Road Academy or school, or was that in addition?
In addition.
Okay. Yeah, 5 years here in London then.
5 years and a half in London. Yes.
5 years and a half in London. Because I think you did a bit of
freelancing in the meantime.
Before being recruited here permanently.
Yes, when I was still a technician at the institute, I did a bit of freelancing as assistant for a mixing engineer here in London. Okay. So I was doing a bit of that as well. So 2-3 jobs, and then I got the interview for this job. So.
Right. Is it permanent? Are you freelance or here? Or?
I am employed by the studios, so I mainly work here.
Congratulations, yes. That's wonderful.
Thank you.
So is that okay if we perhaps go a bit back just to understand, where you come from? And so you are from Rome. You said you were from Rome.
I'm from Rome.
First moped at 14 years old.
Yes.
I bought a scooter in the south of France in my 30s, but this was the first time using a scooter because my mother never wanted me to take a moped. Yeah. And 10 minutes after I bought it, I smashed it.
Oh no!
Yeah. I forgot I had the insurance already, but I had to take a course. I had to actually go back to Paris to take a course to be able to ride a 25cc. What can you do with those intellectuals? They don't know what to do with their hands. Anyway, so are you coming from a family who is musical in itself? Are your parents in the business?
No, my dad is a chemical engineer and my mom is a gymnastic teacher. So, but both of them, before having their let's call it real jobs, they were passionate about something that regarded music. So my mom used to dance, and she did it for many years, like ballet and also modern style. But when she figured out that she didn't have the right body, or what they considered the right body at the time, to become like the first ballerina, or the one at the front of the stage, she had to make a choice. Even if she loved dancing, she was like, I would probably have a better career if I go towards gymnastics, and that's what she did. So she gave up the musical part of her life in some sense to get some what was considered at the time more of a real job. So that's where she went. She did it for her whole life.
Was she going to a musical conservatory to get her ballet classes, or were also some music sessions and classes were given to other students? Or because in France, for example, where I was brought up and where I was born, almost every town has got a municipal town conservatory where you can study music as well as solfeggio, scoring and reading scores, and also playing instruments, and also learning ballet. Mostly the classical ballet.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
is
yeah.
it like this as well?
So in Italy it is like that. We have what we call conservatori, and there's one in every city.
Okay.
Very famous, the one in Rome, especially. But no, my mom never studied there. She took ballet classes and all of that for many years until she was 17, 18.
Okay, more on the private.
Private, yeah. And then she went to a university. You could actually study how to become a gymnastic teacher, and it's like a university.
Sure.
It's like 4 years or 5 years.
Which university did you go to? La Sapienza?
No, my mom is from the north of Italy.
Okay.
She's from Bassano del Grappa, which is out of Vicenza, and it's near Venice. So it's the northeast. Okay. So she went to Milan to study there. And after that,
which university did she go to? If you remember, of course.
Yeah, I think I do remember.
I don't think she would go to Bocconi for this. Don't worry, it's fine.
No, it's because she always tells me I've done this, and now I can remember the name of it. And I'm pretty upset about it, actually.
It will. La Scala is in Milan, isn't it?
Yes.
And do they also do ballet performances there, or is it?
Yeah, they do.
They do.
And my mom always used to tell me about when my grandfather would bring her to La Scala. And it was like a very special thing because the ticket cost a lot of money because it was, the nicest place you could go to see ballet. And she remembers that about my grandpa that didn't have like all the money in the world to take her, but he would when she was younger, and then she grew up with the idea of the ballet also because of that, because she witnessed at La Scala some nice things.
So it is the equivalent of the English National Opera here, the Royal Opera House.
Yes.
Apologies, here in Covent Garden, and I think the Palais Garnier in Paris. Okay, so she had to pivot and go into gymnastics, but she was musical in the sense that she used the music to be able to do her ballet and dance classes. What about your dad?
So my dad as well, his, I would not say dream, but what he loved was art. And he made sculptures of his whole life. Okay. He started with some materials and then went through different phases, reusing different kinds of materials and becoming more abstract. But in the meantime, he was a chemical engineer, so he got, and then he met my mom, they got married, my brother was born, so, he had to kind of provide for the family. So I always saw him in his spare time making these constructions and these beautiful things.
He's got an artistic side.
Yes, but it wasn't until he retired that he could get all of his time put into his passion, which was making sculptures. He was not a lot at home. He would be out traveling around the world.
Who did he work for?
So he worked for big chemical companies. One was called Henkel. They make any sorts of, from soaps to products for cleaning. And then he also worked for a company that was taking care of oil refineries. I don't know if that's the name for them.
So but he probably had to go to the Middle East a lot.
Yeah, he went to Middle East a lot. He would tell me about getting helicopters and, getting to the middle of the sea on the platforms where, it was like, he was basically never there. He was at home once a week for many, many years. And then my auntie, she passed away a couple of years ago, unfortunately. It was his sister. Okay. She was an accomplished painter. And some of her works, there's a couple of big mosaics that actually you can see in the underground in Naples. She lived her whole life basically in Naples. Wonderful. So she was an accomplished painter, and in the meanwhile, she was the older sister, but she was always a bit more say the biggest character. My dad was
more introverted.
Yeah, more introverted. So he always saw her doing whatever she wanted to do and living her life, pursuing her art. And in the meantime, he actually had to felt the weight of providing for his family, so he couldn't pursue his artistic side. And I always thought that it was really nice that when he finally got retired, he now can spend all of his time doing that. And he's actually doing a lot of nice things in Rome, with art galleries and, you know, getting his art out. And I'm really proud of him for that.
That's wonderful.
And he was always the biggest supporter of me making music when I was younger. And I think the fact that he couldn't actually pursue that in his life early on made him understand how important it was for me to actually be having his support in pursuing making music, or buying me a guitar, or pay for music lessons.
Okay. Is that what happened? You played the guitar?
Yes, yes.
When did you start?
So when I was around 6 years old, I always asked to Santa for Christmas either a keyboard or a drum kit, but you know, what would arrive was not the real thing. It was like a toy version of all the musical instruments I wanted to play. So when I was 6 years old, I talked to my mom and I was like, "Mom, I want to play the violin."
The violin?
Yes. And she was like, "I don't think you want to do that. I do think."
She knew how terrible it sounds when kids are actually studying and practicing.
Yes. So what she told me was that, "I think you want to play the guitar."
Okay.
"Mom, I think I want to play the violin, but okay." And she told me, "One day you're gonna thank me, because when there's gonna be a bonfire somewhere, you're gonna bring your guitar and you're gonna be able to sing to people, and you're gonna be able to have a band or play with other people. But with the violin, it would be much more difficult for you to do something like that."
Well, you could have joined
an orchestra.
Yeah, ensemble, but that would be more on the classical side of things.
Exactly. So anyways, she kind of decided.
Did you enjoy it eventually?
Oh yeah, I loved it. I played classical guitar until 12.
Okay. So did you go to a conservatorio? Or?
No, I did like private lessons,
well.
and then
did you learn how to read a score sheet?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. I learned how to read music. I was doing solfeggio.
Okay.
All of that music theory.
Starting from 6 years old. That's
yes. Great. And then when I went to middle school in Italy, you actually have the choice, even if it's a public school, some schools provide like extra music lessons.
Okay.
So my middle school, between the age of 11 and 13, I was actually able to play classical guitar at school after the normal hours.
Which I studied actually in Bocconi, so I was in Milano.
Oh wow!
But I also had a pen friend in Grottaferrata.
Just outside of Rome.
Exactly, which is above Rome. And so I used to go to Rome, Melandina, to Civerina, Lofa, Mughi, Nunziante. So which quartiere, which district of Rome were you?
So I'm from the north of Rome. Okay. When I was a kid, we used to live in Balduina, and then we moved to Monte Mario, and my parents now live in La Giustiniana, which is on Via Cassia. It's like the north of Rome.
Okay.
And at the time, I was in elementary school. Well, in the meantime, when I was a kid, we lived 5 years in Spain, so I lived 5 years in Barcelona from the age of 4 to 9.
Because of your dad's job?
Yes. Because he became responsible for like a Europe division on his company, so he had to relocate. Mm-hmm. And then we came back to Rome, and I studied at did a couple of years of elementary school there, and the middle school was Giovanni XXIII, which is in Balduina neighborhood. And after that, I went to high school.
Every end of the year around May, June, were you taking some concorsi, like exams?
Yes, that's mandatory every year.
Okay.
Yes.
So you were basically every year going up a level and.
Yes, like how it works in Italy is, I find, is slightly different than what it is here. Here they have all these kind of levels with, the letters in front of it, like A something or this grade. I never saw any of that in any of the private schools I was attending.
Okay.
It's like, this is something you would do to have like the diploma that certifies that if you want to access the conservatory or want to do a specific job, but like a regular school would not provide you with some certificate that tells you which level exactly you are in, for a European recognition or world's recognition of that.
Older than you, at around 11 years old, I started playing the piano, and then I decided to switch to the flute traverso. And every year in June we had to play in front of a jury of like 5 or 6 music teachers in the Conservatoire de Suresnes, so Conservatory of Suresnes, and it was pretty scary.
Yeah.
Most of the time we couldn't have a score sheet, we had to have memorized everything by heart. So French are pretty tough with music education.
Yeah.
Were your teachers, were they telling you you are gifted? You should really pursue?
They used to tell me always, you are a good player, but you are lazy. You don't want to.
You don't rehearse every evening.
No.
1 hour.
It was the opposite. It was like, you don't read fast enough. You don't read music fast enough. And since your brain knows it, you learn everything by heart because you have amazing ears.
Wonderful.
So what I used to do, I used to know every piece by heart, just because my teacher would play to me a few times, and then I would actually understand where my fingers were going. I was taking a glance at the music, but I was not actually reading it all the time, and I was going just because of the sounds of the notes, not because of the notes I was seeing on the paper.
Surely I'm sure you know that most guitar musicians in the rock and like in contemporary music, but in the space of pop music and stuff, like commercial music, that's most of them, they don't read music.
True.
It's just by by ear and looking at how the chords are being played, and it's pretty amazing.
And I
must admit, I'm very dependent on my score sheet. If I don't have a score sheet, I still play the flute from time to time at weekends, and my memory is terrible. I need to bring the score sheet.
No, I'm exactly the opposite. And then I found out when I was a bit older that I had, no doctor ever diagnosed anything to me. But I sometimes when I was at school and we were doing mathematics, I used to switch numbers when I was writing them, maybe a touch, but that would not help. Also with reading music. That's why I was so lazy as well, because I was probably getting a bit confused and my brain could not process fast enough the paper. So I relied a lot on my ears. And at the time, all of my teachers were just saying, you should not do that, because when you need to read and you're never going to be able to sight read anything if you keep doing this.
Yeah.
But I didn't care, because I didn't want to become a classical guitar player. That was not my thing. I was just feeling the music inside of me, and I wanted to play along. Or I liked a lot of different music, especially pop music at the time when I was younger, pop, rock. So that was my aim. It was not towards classical world, but more towards rock, pop world. So I knew there was not. It was very important to be able to read music, but sight reading was not it's paramount.
If you were not thinking of becoming a part of an ensemble where you would be the star guitar player and limiting yourself to just classical music. You wanted actually outside your classes, were you sometimes taking a guitar and trying to replicate some tunes you were hearing on the radio or at TV or on the...
All the time.
That's great.
Yeah, when I was younger, internet was a thing, but it was not like as big as now. You can find any progression of chords from any song of any genre. At the time, you would type, chords for this song, and maybe someone had the time to kind of make some sort of website in which there was some indication. So I could not find everything on the internet, so I had to rely on my ears.
When was that? Beginning of the noughties? Beginning of the 2000s?
Beginning of 2000s. I was born in 1989, so I was 11 around 2001 actually.
Yeah, okay.
So I would say 2002, 2003, I asked my parents to buy me an acoustic guitar and an electric guitar, and they were so nice and they did it.
Which brand did they?
They bought me a Fender, a Squire actually, because it was a bit cheaper. Because when you have a kid and they're like, oh, I like this, you never know if it's really, really what they want to do or if they're gonna pursue it. So I think they went for the safest option, which was a cheap guitar with a very cheap amplifier. So I had that, and then they bought me Annie Bannett's acoustic guitar. So I would spend my days with acoustic guitar trying to sing, I don't know, Alanis Morissette, The Cranberries.
Are you serious? You would spend your days?
Yeah, all day. That's what I was doing.
Right. Because I mean, for me, I would play the flute for an hour, and then I would be okay. I've rehearsed my flute. I'll talk to you in 2 or 3 days.
Yeah.
Or tomorrow. But I wouldn't spend the whole day playing the flute or the piano. I was out of a... Wow, so you were really into it.
I was really into it, and I wanted to sing it. So what I started to do...
Were you thinking when you were a teenager that you actually would become a professional?
Oh, well, as I kind of progressed and I became older, I started looking for people that could play with me. So I joined the band as a guitar player first, and then
not the bass, guitar.
Guitar, yes.
Okay. But like a classical or contemporary, like
no, electric guitar.
Oh.
Yeah. So what happened in my high school is that once a year they would do what they call the Settimana di Didattica Alternativa, which means that for a week the students were in charge of the program.
Awesome.
It could be chaos, but it could also be really nice. So we used to watch movies and have a chat about it with all the students, or we used to make laboratories where you could learn things about different things. And there was also the laboratory about music. Mm-hmm. So I was there.
Was that like a really advanced school, or like a progressive school, or was that public school?
Public school. Public high school in the north of Rome, in not a particularly fancy neighborhood as well. Wow. So we would do that, and people would bring their instruments, and everyone would have a go at playing. So whoever knew how to play something would be like, oh, let's try and play this song, and just, kind of rehearse together. So I got noticed because I was playing the guitar, and I think I was playing Nothing Else Matters by Metallica on the acoustic guitar.
Wow.
And one of them came over to me and was like, oh, I have a band and I need a new guitarist. Would you come and try, I was like...
What was he playing himself?
They were doing a mix of some original songs, kind of nu metal influence, like on the heavier side.
Mm-hmm. You were going for your goth phase.
Wearing all dark clothes, black everywhere.
Absolutely necessary in the middle of summer in Rome. Of course.
Oh my God, yes. I used to wear Dr. Martens to the sea as well, like all the sand going in that. Like, anyways, so I was like, okay, I'll bring over my guitar.
But Dr. Martens are great here in London, not
not in Rome, no, not on Ostia Beach, yeah. So I went and I tried, and they were like, okay, you can play with us. So from there I started. And
how long did you stay in the band?
It was roughly a year, but then
were you the only female member of the band?
No, the singer, she was a girl.
Oh, good.
But then at some point she decided to leave the band, or I don't know what happened, and I got called, and they were like, would you try and sing as well? It's like, well, no, I know I'm not terrible, but I don't know if I'm capable of being the front woman of a band, but we can
as
try.
well as playing the guitar.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So I was doing the rhythmic guitar, not solo parts and stuff, but rhythmic guitar and singing.
Wow.
And then
so you did it?
I did it for a bit, but then we never got to the stage, and the band just didn't work. So with the keyboard player, we formed a different band where I was singing. We were doing a mix of covers and original songs that I was composing with the keyboard player as well.
Wow. How old were you by then? More or less?
I would have been, I don't know, 17.
Okay, so at the same time you were preparing as well what we call the baccalaureate and the in France and the A levels here.
So
so that was pretty intense.
Yeah, at 18 we do esame di maturità.
Yeah.
Yes, that.
Which section were you in? Were you like literally or maths?
I took the scientific, what we call the scientific path. So I had a lot of maths, physics.
Yeah. Actually, I read an article saying that people who are usually were good at playing music. Usually, they've got also some skills for math stuff.
Yeah,
I think that's quite linked.
Yeah. Well, maths was my weak point.
Scientific, let's say. Scientific.
Yeah. No, but it is interesting because I think it's related by the fact that music is a language and it's a written language as well. Mm-hmm. So same as mathematics, really. Yeah. So if you know how to read numbers, it might be that your brain is wired in a way that it's good, kind of easier for you to read music as well. It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Keys and stuff.
Yeah, so I was doing all of that in the meantime, and I was also trying to get my exam done.
Which, let's mention it because I think it's true also in Italy, the scientific esame di maturità is probably the toughest among all of the... Yeah?
Yeah, let's say you have
that's the way it is in France. If you take the scientific route, it's supposed to be...
The two more difficult ones are Liceo Classico and Liceo Scientifico, which is the classic literature, because you studied there Greek, Latin, and, literature, but in the scientific path you still have Latin, but you have much more mathematics, physics, biology, chemistry, and all of that kind of stuff. So those are the two most difficult ones. Yeah.
So you were a busy lady at 17 years old.
I was everywhere. I don't know where I was spending the energy if I think about it now.
That's awesome. And were you going to gigs? Were you going to concerts? Because I think there's a massive arena in Rome as well, where you can see very large bands.
There's different ones. We have festivals every summer. We have Capannelle, which is a huge venue. We have the Auditorium, Parco della Musica, where classical music happens, but also a lot of gigs. And I remember my first ever gig. I was 15. It was at the Teatro Tenda Strisce, just outside of Rome, and I went to see Lacuna Coil, which is an Italian metal band.
Wow.
And
chaperoned by your dad? Or was it?
No.
Staying with your friends?
I went with two of my classmates.
Oh.
We were the same age, and one of my classmates' mom got us to the gig, left us there, and then came back to pick us up like 2-3 hours later.
Your parents were pretty cool.
Yeah. Cool. And it was amazing. We were all horrible and sweaty and just like jumping around.
So I was about to ask you whether you were into Lucio Dalla e Giovanotti, but perhaps not then.
No, not then. No. I have most respect for both of them, especially Lucio Dalla. I think it kind of changed completely Italian music, and it affected a lot of people in so many ways. He was an amazing songwriter, but it's a completely different genre. That's like popular Italian music made with a lot of heart. But at the time I was for metal, new metal. I wanted to, the noise from the guitar, distorted guitars.
The French intellectuals will say Italian music, they reply Paolo Conte.
Yes, that's another classic. Yeah,
I really do like Paolo Conte, by the way. Okay, great. So in a way, I think really you coming to London made a lot of sense in view of your musical tastes. But you went. It says on your profile for Abbey Road Studios, you went to St. Louis College of Music. So how did this was this after the licenza di maturità or before or at the same time? Or?
So the path that got me to where I'm here now has not been exactly straightforward. When I did my esame di maturità, I got my score, I got out of high school, and I got the choice. Like everyone in my family has a degree, so they all attended a university, which made me think that automatically I should do it too.
Okay. Do you have a lot of siblings?
I have just one brother, and he's 13 years older than I am.
Okay. So what does he do?
He's a broker. He lived in London for 11 years and then went back to Spain. He's married to a Spanish woman, and they have 3 beautiful kids.
In Barcelona?
They are in Madrid.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he probably studied economics?
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
Yes. So
there was this pressure about getting a degree.
I kind of felt it, yes.
Yeah.
And the problem at the time is that I didn't know what I wanted to do. Or I thought I didn't know. Because I didn't see music as an option.
Really?
Yes. I thought I wasn't talented enough to become a player. Like, a session musician or playing just, as a job. I thought I was not talented enough to become a singer. Or to join the conservatorio, because it was a tough path. Because I was passionate about music, but I thought that having a band was not enough to kind of, get a living out of it. So I had to make a choice. There were 2 things that kind of got my attention. One was architecture, which is really important in Rome. We have one of the oldest faculties for architecture, alla Sapienza. And then biology.
Very different,
yeah.
Wow, both were very different.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're thinking, how am I going to earn my crust? It's great to love music, but if I can't live.
Yeah. So what I did, since biology was what we call open number, so you can enroll and just you're automatically in. But architecture had a test because there's a lot of people applying and not enough spaces. So I was like, I'm going to attempt the architecture one. If I get in, it means that, destiny decided for me that I'm going to become an architect and not a biologist.
But did you have to study hard to get this?
Well, yeah. Okay. I had to study for a few months. Okay. There were like 3,000 people applying, and they got like the first 1,000 or something, less 800. So I got in.
Wow, well done.
Yeah.
Did you enroll into a course to prepare yourself for this entrance exam, or did you prepare by yourself?
No, I got the books and I studied.
By yourself?
Yeah.
Well done.
And so I got in, so I started studying architecture, and one of the first things they tell you...
7 years of studying before you can even go to a practice.
So it's 5 years of uni, but the average time that a person would take to actually get to the degree is 7 years. Yeah. And the first thing they tell you, the first lecture, they look at, you're there with hundreds of new students, and they look at everyone and they're like, with the microphone they say, hi, welcome, you're one of the most prestigious faculties for architecture in the world. I enrolled in the Ludovico Quaroni faculty. There were 2 at the time, Valle Giulia and Ludovico Quaroni. One was Sapienza. Yes, one was considered more of a kind of classical approach to a study of architecture. The other one was more sort of design, kind of. So I got in the Ludovico Guaroni one, who was the founder.
A more classical one.
Yeah, more like architecture. That's it. And in the microphone they said we have a 25% rate of actually people getting to the degree. So this means that
even with an entrance exam, which is tough.
Yeah. So this means that 3 out of 4 of you are not gonna make it. So if you have any doubts now, this is the first day. You still have time to enroll in a different faculty and study something else. So if you want to leave, this is the moment to do it.
Why are so many people falling out of a curriculum?
It is very long, and it's a very difficult one.
Wow.
The teachers are established architects or people that belong to families where everyone was an architect, and they kind of expect so much of you, and it's pretty brutal the approach they take, because they have so many students, they don't need you. That's the point. They're like, you wanted to do it, so you have to demonstrate me your worth.
So how long did it take you to understand that wasn't enough?
So I did it for 5 years. I arrived to the last year, but it would have taken me another 3 years to get the degree.
And by then you were not yet at St. Louis College of Music.
By then I was 23. I thought I was old to change, and I was seeing my life as a failure, because I would have had to spend another 3 years of my life studying something that I was not really passionate about.
Okay, but then you had ascertained you were not really passionate about architecture.
Yes. And in the meantime, I was making music with my band. We were doing gigs, and I was doing all that stuff on the side as well.
And your parents were okay to support you for 5 years, or you had to work as well?
Like every once in a while, I was kind of helping in my cousin's. He has a shop in the underground for selling tickets. Okay. So every once in a while, my dad would send me there, saying, you're a grown up now. So if you need the money for
non sei una vitellone, devi andare a lavorare.
Esattamente, proprio così. So which is fair. It's fair, because I was pursuing my interests and music, and I was not progressing fast enough with architecture. And at some point I was just so sad and depressed that my parents came to me and they were like, Marta, you cannot go on about this like this, because I don't think that's the right approach to life, really. So if this doesn't make you happy, it's fine. You're not a failure. Find something you're passionate about and you want to actually do. It doesn't matter if you're not going to become an architect. Just please change this situation, because we don't know how to help you anymore.
You were really feeling quite depressed.
Yeah, I was really feeling sad, yes.
So how did you come across St. Louis College of Music?
It was actually my mom.
Oh,
she was
really?
Like, because I didn't know about the existence of St. Louis College of Music. I only knew about the Conservatorio in Rome, that they were, teaching music in all of its different fields.
Probably classical music, though.
Mostly classical.
Yeah.
And then what I was doing with my band, I had the computer and I would try and record our music. So I had downloaded all these free softwares you could use.
Wow.
To actually be able to, with just a microphone, to get like a track going on, and then maybe record the guitar on top, and maybe record the bass on top. So in the meantime, by myself, I was trying to do that, but I didn't know how it worked.
As a sort of hobby, you were kind of improvising yourself.
Yes, as a hobby. So
interesting.
My parents were like, "You spend all day doing this kind of thing. Isn't there anywhere you can learn about this?" I didn't even think about sound engineering. I didn't even know what it was at the time. And so I looked at the Conservatorio, and they had a section about sound engineering, but it was so classically. So you had to learn the setticlavio, which is all the 7 different sort of keys you can sing to. You know, you have la chiave di sol, la chiave di fa, so the bass and the treble, but you had to learn all about the theory of music theory, and I already knew that was not my strength, and I wanted something probably more hands-on if I had to learn how to actually record music. So it was actually my mom that heard about this school. She was like, why didn't you...
She's a teacher, or she was a teacher then, so...
Yes.
She had a network.
So probably...
She probably asked around a bit.
Yeah, she asked around a bit, she talked to someone, and she was like, this private school...
This is a private school, I was wondering actually.
Yes, it's a private university. Yeah. And they give you the equivalent...
Università.
Università, yes. So my degree is the equivalent of a bachelor's degree.
So does this mean you got 2 degrees? One in architecture and the other one?
I never finished architecture. I dropped out.
Wow. Well, okay. And so how long was that degree in St. Louis College of Music?
4 years.
In English?
In Italian, but you had they teach you English as well.
So after l'esame di maturità, you've got 9 years of studying?
Yes.
Okay.
Right. So they have a preparatory year if you don't know anything about audio. So
you did it?
So I did it, and then I did the 3 years for the bachelor's degree.
Okay.
So it's 4 years total. And
which district of Rome is it based in?
It's in city center. It's in Rione Monti, very close to the Altare della Patria,
That's cool.
Via Cavour.
Oh, lovely. Oh, wow.
Nice city
nice
center.
shops there.
Oh, yeah.
It was nice to commute to these parts of town every day, I suppose.
Yeah. I had to take the train and then change and get the metro A, or metro B.
Yeah, because it's definitely not something you can do like distance learning. You have to be there, right?
Yes,
hands-on.
And they had a studio there.
Were they good? Do you think it's a good university?
I do think it's a good uni. At the time, they didn't have many facilities, which is something that I found here when I came to the institute, because I wanted to be more hands-on and have more spaces, being able to learn, and also maybe a big desk or that kind of thing.
The Abbey Road Institute.
Yes, sorry, the Abbey Road Institute. So I studied St. Louis those 4 years, and I felt like I got a lot of theory out of it. And not more.
What do you mean theory? Because I'm trying to think. Here you probably don't really need to have to read score sheets, or maybe a bit less than when you are playing an instrument. But what sort of theory would you dig into?
I was thinking about more audio, the physics of audio.
How to get a great sound.
Yeah, we studied everything related to sound, which means also how am I going to build a studio with a good acoustic. So I studied acoustics as well, and then I studied how system works, like PA. If you do live sound, how are you going to get those speakers to be in sync with these other speakers? Or I had a module that was about everything that is electric, so you don't get electrocuted on the job, because you handle a lot of power when you work in some venues. So it was very, very technical, and in the meantime I was doing music theory, piano.
Wow.
And
practicing piano.
Yeah. You have to do it, and then I was studying music for film. So and I had the practice.
What you mean, creating, being? What do you mean?
History of music for film.
History of music for film.
Yeah. And then I had the time in the studio, so I had to learn every microphone, how they worked, how a music desk works, a mixer, and then there's also all the protocols for softwares, what MIDI is, all the different DAWs, so digital audio workstations, so all the softwares that we use to record audio, manipulate audio.
What is MIDI?
MIDI is a protocol to be able to send sort of data from an instrument to a computer, or vice versa. So when you play a keyboard that doesn't doesn't have any sound in it, you probably gonna have a MIDI cable going to your laptop, and that's where the sound is. So the keyboard is sending a MIDI signal to your computer that tells the computer which note you're playing on the keyboard. And you're basically remotely controlling whatever software you have on your computer.
What about editing once you have a recording? Where you learn this as well?
Yeah, I was learning that. I was learning about editing. I was learning about mixing. I was learning about mastering. Everything. I mean, it's 3 years long plus 1, so it's 4 years long. So we got into basically every aspect of audio possible.
Was that a good recipe to get your depression away?
Oh yeah, it was amazing. The recordings of my band improved a lot.
Thank you, mamma.
Grazie mamma, grazie papà, infinitamente grata. Because in the meantime, I was applying that to my band stuff. So I was recording our music, and I started doing a bit of freelancing. I was doing live sound in a venue, and then I got to work for a music company that was doing music for TV. So I worked on this show that it was like a kids talent show for Italian TV. So we were doing music for that. So while I was studying, I was keeping music.
Was that in Cinecittà? Because I remember that the famous film studios are based close to Rome or in Rome. Cinecittà.
Yes, Cinecittà is like huge for cinema.
Okay. It's still working, right?
No, still there. But what I was working.
Did you have a chance to work there sometimes?
No, because for TV with all the Mediaset stuff, which is channel 4, 5, and 6.
In Italy.
In Italy, they have.
Mediaset, that's Berlusconi, no?
It was Berlusconi stuff. So they have their big studios that are just outside of Rome, I think on Via Salaria, if I'm correct.
Yeah.
And
so you were going there?
So I went there for a few times, and it was actually really interesting to me to see how they do editing for TV, which is pretty different from editing for music. When you edit music, you try and be musical about it. When you edit for TV, you're trying to be practical about it.
Sure.
So it's two completely different approaches, completely different softwares as well that they were using. So I got to see another side of the music business,
which is probably very useful for you now, because I understand that in your work that you do nowadays for Abbey Road Studios, sometimes you have to work on projects which include movie scores and therefore need to fit to the to the video and shots and stuff.
The idea of having the picture in sync with the music, and then having the music maybe fading out or fading in when there's a dialogue, and the idea about the music being sometimes complementary or in the background, and some other times being very prominent. That's been interesting also to see how it works in TV.
So thanks, that's very enlightening. And so what are the links between the Abbey Road Institute and the St. Louis College of Music? Are they close, or was it just like a coincidence?
From what I know, there's none.
So how did you come across the Abbey Road Institute in another country?
So when I got to my degree and I was freelancing and then studying and having my band and my projects, I was at the moment in my life where I looked in the mirror. I was like, if I want to do this job, because my aim was to try and get into a studio. But I was looking around me in Rome.
I gather there aren't many studios in Rome.
No.
Okay?
No.
Or you need to be a man in your 50s or 60s and super connected.
You said that. This is exactly how it is. There are not many studios. The ones that are there are mostly the same people. They've been there for like 30 years, and it's pretty difficult to find a place, like to put a foot in the door. So I was doing a lot of things. I thought I was working really hard, but I couldn't see how I could achieve my dream, let's say, staying there. So at some point I thought, is either I leave and I try and do what I want to do somewhere else, or I stay here and I just, accept the fact that it's going to be difficult and probably I'm never going to get there.
After all this work and this studying, that would have been a shame.
So my parents were really nice about it again, and I told mom and dad I want to leave. So I got my degree. I graduated with honors at St. Louis College of Music, so I showed that I was committed.
Well, leave for where? Did you have an idea? Did you look at the States as well?
No, because I know it's pretty difficult with visas to kind of, and it was really far away as well. At the time, my brother was living here in London.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So I could come and just take a look around. I had already visited a few times, and I thought London was a really nice city.
You could wear your Doc Martens, no problem here.
Yes,
for sure.
And then I made the research about where the music industry is actually bigger in Europe, because I thought if I have to leave and I don't want to go to a different continent.
Well, either here or Sweden, but I don't know. Probably I would here.
I've never been to Sweden.
Well, with all the ABBA, this
yeah, true.
So what came out of your research? What was
that the biggest, in terms of revenue and how big the business is, England and London specifically were like the top city to go. And then there was Germany with Berlin, and there was Amsterdam, so basically the north of Europe. And since I heard...
They were a bit below though.
Yes.
Yeah.
So since I knew already a bit about London, I made a research about schools in London where I could get more practical experience and I could maybe study. My aim was not more than a year because I also needed to get my English going. I had a good English, but not nearly enough to be able to work in an environment where everyone was native. So I thought, if I do 6 months or a year somewhere in a school, full-time, part-time, I don't know, let's see what the program is, and I can get access to a studio or more than one because they have the facilities, I'm going to be able also to pick up on English and learn new things and learn how the business works there, rather than just move to London and try from scratch, knowing nobody, to try and find a job there.
You wanted to build a network as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
So in my research, I found different schools, and I thought, and I saw that the Abbey Road Institute was, it had the name, of course. So I was like, let me take a look at the program. The program starts almost from scratch, from the basics of sound and basic of music theory, until the end of it, which is like very in depth in all of the audio-related topics and music production.
To a degree, these are things which you had already studied in Rome, weren't
yes.
They? Yeah.
Some stuff,
but
yes.
In Italian.
But in Italian. So I thought, if I start from something easy, and I pick up the language, and then the program goes and it gets more intense and more complicated, I'll be able to understand more.
Very smart.
So I enrolled. I came for the interview.
So when was that exactly? Which year?
2018.
18. Wow.
2018. It was, I think, they started recruiting in September of 2017, and I think I came for the interview in January 2018, and the course started in February 2018. So they sent me the letter, you've been accepted. You have to demonstrate a certain knowledge of music theory or present projects you worked on. You need to be able to play an instrument. It doesn't...
Piano and guitar, so you're good.
Yeah, it doesn't necessarily... You don't have to be a virtuoso of the instrument, but, the necessary to kind of be able to understand what harmony is, for example. So I did that. I got my letter, I got accepted, and a month later I was here in London and I started studying at the Institute.
So the Institute at the time, in 2018, was here. It was not in Angel yet.
Yes, okay. not just yet.
Okay,
they had 3 production rooms. They were smaller than what they have now, and they had the Custom 75, which is a studio that is actually here in Abbey Road Studios, where they have a Neve desk.
So what's that, sorry?
Neve is a brand that makes mainly desks and mixers, but also all the parts for it. So preamps,
so when you see like this sort of platform with all the buttons and stuff.
Yeah, like a spaceship control
exactly.
Thing.
And you call it a Neve?
That's one brand, but there are many others like SSL.
You call it Neve desk?
Yeah, they had and they have a Neve desk for that particular studio at the institute, and I never had in my life the chance to work on a Neve.
Wow!
So I was really happy about it. So how it worked?
Like, what would be a ballpark figure for this kind of big stations? How much would this sort of thing cost? For example, a Neve desk.
It depends. Yeah. It depends if it's new, if it's used, if it's a vintage model. From tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands.
Wow. Okay, it's a big investment.
It's huge investment. Yes.
Engineering studio. Okay.
So yeah, I got access to the studio, and I never left the studio since then.
4 years, yeah. Plus, 4 years plus the 1 year at the academy. Wow. And I can see on your.
Yes.
I can see on your profile on the Abbey Road website that your work is quite diverse. I mean, you're not doing just one thing. Whilst at the studio, she has worked on many projects, including movie scores for Marvel, Disney, and Netflix, such as Black Widow, Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, Doctor Strange, Fantastic Beasts, Matrix, Resurrection, Shang-Chi. I haven't heard of Shang-Chi, but so that's pretty cool. And also that you worked with Joe Bonamassa, so probably on the more, or you would say something that would come to mind more if you think of a work of a sound engineer. So you worked with Joe Bonamassa, Nile Rodgers, that's cool, Kaiser Chiefs, Bastille, among others, and Alexandre Desplat, who is one of the favorite composers for Wes Anderson, and probably others as well. So what did you actually request to be put on film projects, or?
So an interesting thing about Abbey Road is that you never know who's gonna come to record here.
I'm sure you have a book, of autographs.
I try to be professional about it.
Well, you can be professional and still get an autograph.
True. Or a picture, maybe.
Oh yeah, cool.
And so basically what happens is that the clients book the studios because they need it for the projects. And there's our team is around 25 people, if I'm correct. So we get allocated to the sessions when needed.
Like the technical staff, so 25 people, or that includes also the admin and accounts?
Just the sound engineers
25 sounds
of different levels, comprehending the runners as well.
Right, that's big.
Yeah.
Do you know, actually, I'm sure you know that, but I personally live just in front of Rack Studios. Nice. Which is in, I think, Charlton Avenue or something. And I've heard recently also that the BBC studios just got bought by a conglomerate and a group, and
Hans Zimmer.
And one of them is Hans Zimmer, the famous composer. So I was like, gosh, it's amazing how St. John's Wood in this part of London has got so many, and Maidavale as well, because they're called the Maidavale Studios, has got so many sound engineering studios around here, and I'm just in the middle of it. And so, but probably I think Abbey Road Studios with its 25 sound engineers would probably be the biggest, I should think.
I'm not aware of the amount of stuff they have, but I would say
Rack Studios for sure. You're bigger than Rack Studios, but Abbey Road, do you think? I meant Maidavale Studios. Do you think they might be bigger because it's the Beebs?
I don't think they have 25 members of the engineering
so
team.
Probably the biggest.
Probably we are, yes. Yes, so about the diverse pool of clients we have. So
Yes.
we get allocated to different sessions. Of course, each one of us can express a preference. Sometimes it's subject to availability. Sometimes people are on holiday, so you have to cover their shifts, as any other job.
Sure.
So
Are some projects perhaps more technical than others, and therefore only very senior sound engineers can do them, or usually as long as you've gone beyond the stage of being a runner, you are able to do everything as a sound engineer?
I would say that some runners as well are able to do everything.
Okay,
but
that's another point.
of course, there is different levels.
Okay.
We have different, would say, a pyramid in some sort of way. So we have the runners, and then you become an assistant engineer. And then after that, you become a recordist, which is another very specific figure, and then an engineer.
You stayed as a runner for 7 months, you said?
I was a regular runner for a year, and then I was a senior runner, which means I was managing the runners team.
Oh, wow.
At the moment, we have 6 runners on site, so you need someone that manages them. And I did that for another 7 months, and then I became assistant engineer, and that's where I am now.
Okay.
Yes.
And then you were saying above assistant engineer, I suppose you have engineer?
Above assistant engineer, you have recordist.
Okay.
And then engineer.
Right. So your goal at the moment is to become a recordist?
Yes, that should be the next step.
Okay.
But
You've been an assistant engineer for how many months or years?
It's 2 years now.
Okay.
Yeah. And to reply to your question, yes, different roles have different jobs, let's say. So while I, as an assistant engineer, I take care of some parts of the session of the work, the recordist takes care of other parts, and the engineer of other parts.
So you work in duos or trios sometimes?
Oh yes. To run Studio One, which is the biggest studio we have, you can have like 100-piece orchestra in there.
So Depla records his scores with orchestras in, for example, in Studio One.
Yes. So to run Studio One, there's the need for 3 or 4 of us. So you're gonna have an engineer, a recordist, and an assistant assigned to the session. Sometimes a runner too.
Where is this Studio One? Is it like in the basement or in the main building? Or
yeah, in the main building. Like the building from outside looks small, but once you get inside, it's huge.
Ah.
Yeah.
But it's got an underground bunker or something?
No, it's like.
I hope you got planning permission.
No, it's actually, once you go in, you go downstairs and you have Studio One live room, which is really big. And Studio 2 is just in front of it, and Studio 3 is just above.
Okay.
And those are the 3 bigger rooms.
Okay, and so the smaller studios are perhaps a bit up on like second, third floor, third stories.
So the gatehouse is actually just outside. We have a ramp on the left, so it's just like separate.
Okay.
And the front room is actually looking at the building, the window on the left. So it's just at the front, in front of reception. So yeah, the smaller, and we have the other smaller room. One is upstairs at the last floor, like on top of the building.
Okay.
And then the mix stage is big. It's like cinema big, and is on one side of the building, just outside of it.
Okay. So that's cool because you don't have to externalize anything. You can do the whole supply chain.
Yes.
Like sort of full, chain of doing all the tasks up to the final product, which is
the mastering.
Exactly, the master completed, and
yeah, we can do everything on site.
Okay, and so so as you were saying, sometimes in view of the planning of each one and stuff, you get allocated to a team of 2, 3, sometimes even 5 to do a project, and it could be recording a studio session, it could be working on a film project.
Yes.
Yeah. Anything else other than these two options?
So I would say the bigger rooms is of course orchestras for scores. So you go anywhere from cinema to streaming services, so Netflix, Amazon.
What does this mean in practice? Does this mean that you are inviting some session musicians that they're going to watch the film being played while they play, so that it doesn't it goes with
So if you look at the videos of how they recorded some of the Star Wars music in Studio One, for example, with John Williams.
Can I see that? Is it online?
It's online, yeah. You can on YouTube. On YouTube, you just type John Williams, Abbey Road Studios, Star Wars, and that's the video there.
I'll do that.
So once you see that, there's the whole orchestra, and there was a big screen with a projector, and they would project the movie in the room.
So I was right. Yeah.
And the conductor would give, the cues to the orchestra to go in time with, and they had the click as well. So each musician has a click track.
So it's funny because this is how it used to be done in the silent film era, where they basically had all these musicians playing with the film being shown on screen, and everybody laughing.
Because at the time of the mute, I don't think they had the click track, so the musician was playing and they was looking at where it should land for, I don't know, an explosion or someone.
So while here it's actually with a click track, but they have the cues.
Exactly. So at the beginning, click track was not a thing, but was the conductor that was watching the movie, and the orchestra was watching the movie, and they were trying to go in time with that. John Williams has a way of doing it with a clock, for example. So it was looking at the seconds on the clock, and it was timing that to the movie because of the number of frames and everything was coinciding with kind of 60 seconds in a minute. But that was a complicated way, like his way of doing it.
Nice.
What we do right now is that the movie and the picture that is not streamed anywhere, like the orchestra cannot see it. We have a click track that goes with the movie, and sometimes the conductor has the picture, sometimes they don't. So the orchestra basically relies heavily on the click track that goes in sync, and score, of course.
All right, okay. So they all wear some headphones.
They all wear headphones, yes.
Yeah. Last but not least, actually, do you have some advice for girls who want to become sound engineers?
So something I wish someone would have told me when I was at the beginning was that it can be done, that you can actually do it. That probably is not going to be the easiest path, but it's not the easiest path for everyone, for anyone, guys or girls. Yes, there are some. We might find some more difficulties. In terms of again seeking representation or being able to ask for advice, or but what I can say about it is that I was really shy, so I didn't want to reach out to the people that I wanted to talk to, especially women in the industry. But now there's a big movement around women in sound engineering.
Did you not go to a sort of seminar about that, about ladies working in sound engineering, I think in the US or something, last year? Or earlier this year?
So we did a remote thing with Berkeley, with Emily Lazar, who's a really important mastering engineer.
What is it called, this thing, this movement?
Do
you remember?
Her specific name. The event had a specific name.
Yeah, I think it was with girls or women in the title.
No, it was We Are Moving the Needle.
Okay.
So there's also different other companies around and organizations that you can reach out to, and they have a big network of women in the industry, like Sound Girls, for example. And I think the key is also working together and reaching out to other women in the industry. This is something that I didn't do because I didn't know about it, and also I was really shy about it. But when you find someone that you think, oh, is doing something cool, they're working on amazing projects, and it seems like a person I could have a chat to or ask for advice to, please reach out, because we have social media now.
Indeed.
When I was younger, it was not that big, and we were not always connected, but
so
let's
what we're
use
saying
it.
is, even if you're not based in London, you can still reach out through social media.
Yes,
and stuff.
because maybe you're scared, maybe you're a bit shy about things, or maybe you don't know if your knowledge is enough to pursue a career in the industry, or you don't know what the next steps are to achieve what you want, but someone did it. Someone in the world managed to do it, and there's so many ways you can achieve the same thing, and I don't see why I could not share my experience to kind of help you, maybe, or open your mind to a different way of or a different perspective of saying things.
Okay.
So if I could give an advice, would be actually that: reach out and find people with similar stories, and see if the paths that someone else opened for you or for the next generations, they can be pursued, and that can be for you as well.
Great. Thank you, Marta.
Thank you so much for having me.
A wonderfully enlightening podcast episode. Thank you.
Thank you.